Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We'll come to order. Before we begin today's meeting, Seguin Township acknowledges that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples in the Huron-Robinson Treaty Area. We recognize and respect the long history of First Nations and Métis peoples on this land, and that this region continues to be home to many thriving First Nations communities that have lived on Turtle Island for time immemorial. Seguin Township is committed to ongoing learning, responsible stewardship of our planet, and building relationships to help create a better future for generations to come. So if I could have a mover and seconder, please, to convene today's meeting. Greg. And Lee. Moved by Greg, seconded by Lee, that the Committee of Adjustment for the Corporation of the Township of Seguin here convenes at 4 o'clock on Wednesday, February 12th, 2025. All in favor? And carried. So the Committee of Adjustment hereby convenes a public meeting as per the Planning Act. Applicants and the public can speak at the public meeting. When asked who wishes to speak to an application, please raise your hand, state your name and address, and direct all comments through me. Notice of decisions will be sent to applicants and to the public if requested. Only the prescribed persons as per the Planning Act may appeal a decision or condition of approval within 20 days after the decision. If you're joining remotely, please pay attention to your mic settings and stay on mute unless you're addressing the committee. If you're here in person, if you're addressing the committee, please approach the podium and tap the mic button so that the rest of the folks in the audience can hear you. So I need a mover and seconder, please, for a resolution to accept the agenda for today's meeting. Moved by Greg and seconded by Len. Len, I called you Len this time. That the Committee of Adjustment for the Corporation of the Township of Seguin hereby approves the agenda for the February 12th, 2025 hearing. All in favor? And carried. And one more time, a mover and seconder to accept the minutes of the last hearing, please. Moved by Lee, seconded by Greg. That the Committee of Adjustment for the Corporation of the Township of Seguin hereby accepts as read and circulated the minutes of its last hearing that took place on Wednesday, January 15th, 2025. All in favor? And carried. I now ask committee members for any pecuniary interest with respect to today's applications. Any conflicts to declare? Anyone? None heard. So we'll carry on. I will ask the Secretary Treasurer to introduce our first application, please.
The purpose of minor variance application A-2024-0043H for Mackenzie is to construct a detached 1.5-story garage requesting a variance for height of an accessory structure. No formal correspondence was received.
Okay, thank you. And I believe we have Mr. Mackenzie here. If you have anything to say, please step up to the mic.
Thank you to the committee. Had the pleasure of meeting WIB, who came out to take a look. We've been a proud cottage and property owner for 25 years in Seguin Township. I'm now retired. So the purpose of the structure was to build a garage because I want to live up here. So the design that was done required about just over 3 feet. Lot footprint, location, everything else. We actually have our permit for foundation already issued, but it's the peak that we required the variance for. So location and everything we thought was ideal. And then the person that designed it realized you need to have an extra meter roughly. So that was the purpose of the structure. Everything else, there's not much else. All the submissions and everything, all the drawings, all the locations, all the surveys and everything are all within lot footprint, coverage, everything else that we have. So yeah, with a grandfather first to be and my kids growing up, and now this is an opportunity for us to have storage and a place for me to put the car and the boat. So that's the purpose of the structure, and it's a detached 1.5 story. So if there's any questions that the committee has, I'm happy to address. And clearly this is not widely attended in person, but I'm happy to address any questions of my township.
Okay, yeah, just stand by for a moment. Any questions from committee? Len, any questions? Tap your mute button, please, man. We can't hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I haven't any questions.
Okay, thanks. Okay, last call. Comments, questions? Otherwise, mover and seconder, please, to bring this to vote. Moved by Wibb. Seconded by Greg. That the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves variance application A-2024-0043-H Mackenzie to construct a detached 1.5-story garage, requesting the following variance to zoning bylaw 2006-125 under section 4.1.4 building height accessory structures, maximum permitted 4.5 meters, proposed is 5.6 meters for a variance of 1.1 meters. Subject to the following conditions, the extent of the variances will generally conform to that shown on the sketch plan submitted in the application. And number 2, that the owner applies for and obtains a building permit for the 1.5-story garage within 3 years of the date of decision of the Committee of Adjustment. All in favor? And carried.
The application has been approved. You will get a letter in the next few days notifying you of the decision, and the 20-day appeal period starts now.
Okay, thank you. And Melissa, next application, please.
The purpose of minor variance application A-2024-0044F McCanna is to construct a detached garage with a storage area below, requesting a variance for height of an accessory structure. No formal correspondence was received.
Okay, thank you. Now we have, I think, a couple of people for this application on the screen. Does anyone wish to speak to us?
Hi, hello, we're Heather and Kevin McCanna.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, great. Sorry, I didn't know we needed to say anything, but
You don't have to, but if you wish to, you can. Otherwise, you can stand by for questions.
The reason, again, for our variance is obviously the terrain of our property. We are on a hill, and rather than pour in $30,000 worth of fill, we figured we'd put a basement in the structure for storage, workshop, and parking above. And that requires, with the peak of the roof, requires a minor variance for the height. The location is well back on our property. Almost when the leaves will be out in the trees, it won't be noticeable from the lake at all, I don't believe. And it's well within we're well within the footprint allowance of our property. That's about all I guess we've got to say. Thank you.
Okay, super. Thanks. I will turn it over to committee for questions. Yes, Wibb, go ahead.
I must admit, when I attended the site, I thought the storage was a half story above the garage, and I was wondering how that was going to work out. It makes a lot more sense now that I know that it's below the garage. It's a unique site for a garage for sure.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Okay, anyone else? Questions, comments? All right, mover and seconder, please, to bring this forward. Moved by Lee, seconded by Greg. that the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves variance application A-2024-0044-F for McKenna to construct a detached garage with a storage area below, requesting the following variance to zoning bylaw 2006-125. Under bylaw section 4.1.4, building height accessory structures, maximum permitted is 4.5 meters. Proposed is 6.5 meters for a variance of 2 meters. Subject to the following conditions, the extent of the variances will generally conform to that shown on the sketch plan submitted in the application. And number 2, that the owner applies for and obtains a building permit for the garage within 3 years of the date of decision of the Committee of Adjustment. All in favor? And carried.
The application has been approved. You will get a letter in the next few days notifying you of the decision, and the 20-day appeal period starts now.
Thank you very much for your consideration.
Okay, thank you, folks. Okay, Madam Secretary, last application.
The purpose of minor variance application A-2025-0001H for Gibbs is to construct a new cottage and is requesting a variance for maximum building height for a cottage. No formal correspondence was received.
Thank you. We have a Mr. Hicks here, I believe. Do
Yes,
you wish
good
to
afternoon.
address the committee?
Yes, I do. Just briefly, Mr. Chairman and members. I just wanted to clarify, there is an existing permit for the cottage. As you can see from the photographs, it has been essentially constructed in terms of the shell. There was a previous variance for location of a boathouse within the environmental protection area, but everything else meets the zoning requirements. During construction, we found that because of the grades were slightly different than what we had thought in terms of the grading plan, that we would be better off to expose a little bit more of the basement wall, and thus the average grade line has changed. So the roof line hasn't changed, it's just where we measure it from that has changed. And that reduces us having to build a number of retaining walls towards the lakeside, which I think is consistent with the intent of the shoreline policies in terms of trying to reduce the amount of unnatural shoreline that's being modified with grades. So it allows them to plant a little bit more landscaping, gives a little bit more of a flat area outside of the lower level. So no change to the building, really just changing grade line, and we're really just applying to make sure that when we apply for occupancy that we don't have an issue with how the measurement for height was undertaken. So.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Committee members, any questions for Mr. Hicks? Last call for questions. Okay, if I could have a mover and seconder, please, to bring this forward. Moved by Lee, seconded by, did I see your hand, Len?
Yes.
Moved by Lee, seconded by Len, that the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves variance application A-2025-0001-H for Gibbs to construct a new cottage on the property, requesting the following variance to zoning bylaw 2006-125 under section 6.3, table 6.2, column 4, maximum building height for a cottage. Maximum permitted is 10 meters, proposed is 11.25 meters for a variance of 1.25 meters. Subject to the following conditions. Number 1, the extent of the variance will generally conform to that shown on the sketch plan submitted in the application. Number 2, that the owner revise the existing building permit to reflect the revised building height. And number 3, that the owner execute an agreement with the municipality under section 45, subsection 9.1 of the Planning Act. And this agreement is to be registered on title to require the submittal and implementation of a revegetation plan. All in favor? And carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members.
The application has been approved. You will get a letter in the next few days notifying you of the decision, and the 20-day appeal period starts now.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks for attending, folks.
Thank you.
Okay, any other business? No business?
I would just like to thank the staff. I wasn't able to visit all of the sites, and I think the photos were really really great. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, then a mover and seconder to adjourn, please. Moved by Lee, seconded by Wibb. That the Committee of Adjustment for the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn this hearing at 4:14 PM on Wednesday, February 12th, 2025. The committee will hold its next hearing at 4 PM on Wednesday, March 12th, 2025, or at the call of the chair unless the Secretary Treasurer has not received complete applications for committee consideration. All in favor? And carried. Meeting adjourned.